The Trump regime is refusing to comply with the Supreme Court's unanimous 9-0 ruling, ordering them to return Abrego Garcia, a migrant with protected status who the Trump regime kidnapped from Maryland and put in a gulag in El Salvador. In fact, the Trump regime has been pretending that they actually won the Supreme Court ruling when they lost 9-0. And relatedly, the Trump regime rolled out the red carpet earlier today for El Salvador's authoritarian leader, Nayib Bukele. Trump was on a hot mic speaking to Bukele, saying that American citizens should be sent to the El Salvador gulags and asking Bukele to build 5 more facilities so that Americans can be sent there. Sounds pretty dictatorish to me. We'll cover that. We'll also cover other things that went down in Donald Trump's bizarre and dangerous Oval Office press conference, where now he's talking about additional tariffs on pharmaceuticals. What even is the status of these tariffs at this point? The volatility, the exemptions. I'm not sure the American government or the Trump regime even knows what it is. We'll talk about that. Also, Donald Trump's been spending the past 48 hours, frankly, like he's been spending the past few months in these, what are we, 75, 100 days, still less than 100 days, attacking the president of Ukraine, President Zelensky. It's particularly morbid what Donald Trump is doing as Ukraine experienced one of the most deadly attacks against it by the invader, by Russia. 2 ballistic missiles on Palm Sunday killed 34 innocent Ukrainians, injured about 117 others in the city of Sumy as people were out going to church to celebrate Palm Sunday. Donald Trump used the time to attack Ukraine. Also, a United States special envoy to Russia, Steve Witkoff, was there over the past few days in St. Petersburg, Russia, and in this bizarre photo puts his hand over his heart and shows subservience to Putin. It looks like he's pledging allegiance to Putin. Also, let's talk about the Fight the Oligarchy tour, which is taking the country by storm, led by Senator Bernie Sanders and Congresswoman AOC. On Saturday, about 36,000 people showed up in Los Angeles. Then Senator Sanders went to Coachella on the main stage, spoke to about 125,000 people in Coachella. They were all booing Donald Trump when Sanders brought up Trump's name. Then on Sunday, Sanders and AOC took the Fight the Oligarchy tour to, of all places, Utah, where about 10% of the entire Salt Lake City population showed up, filled this arena, 20,000 strong, chanting "Tax the Rich." That and more on the MeidasTouch Podcast. I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by Brett and Jordy. We've got a lot to discuss today, brothers, indeed. Full-on authoritarian, beyond constitutional crisis in the United States. It's an authoritarian regime here. The question is, what does the resistance to an authoritarian dictator look like?
Yeah, well, it looks like never stopping, never quitting, keeping up the pressure, and that's what we're going to do. It's great to be here with you, brothers. It's great to be here with the Meidas Mighty, everybody listening right now on audio, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, everybody watching right now live on YouTube. This is another instance where these so-called alarmists, I put that in quotes, the alarmists about Donald Trump are right once again. People have been consistently warning that Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. They keep being proven right over and over and over again. They were right when they said he wouldn't respect the court rulings, right when he said he'd surround himself with these authoritarian strongmen who undermine our institutions. They were right when they said he'd flirt with these foreign governments to enforce his domestic political agenda. And now Trump is out here openly defying a Supreme Court order, floating the idea, at least, of sending U.S. citizens to prison camps in El Salvador. This is the perfect storm of chaos and incompetence that we are seeing with the Trump administration. And there is just so much going on that sometimes it's hard to keep track of it all. He's crashing the economy this day. He's doing this horrific foreign policy thing this day. But, we try to make sense of it all as best we can here and bring you all the data, all the information, because the truth is, in horrifying days like today, you cannot cover your eyes. You cannot cover your ears. You need to actually understand what is going on, and you need to be able to sound the alarm to your friends and family. And so we're going to help you guys do that here on the MeidasTouch Podcast. Jordy, what's new on your end?
No, absolutely, Brad. And continue on with that. You can't cede any ground. You give a guy the inch, you give the guy the inch, he takes your life. We've said that multiple times throughout this podcast, a bunch of episodes. Don't give him anything, because what he's doing right now is disgusting. And there's no other way to even talk about what's happening right now and the way he's quote unquote leading this country. It's a disaster what he's doing right now. And don't be gaslit by corporate media into thinking that what's happening is normal. None of this is normal. Continue to stay strong in the fight. Don't give him an inch. Benji, where do you want to start?
With Donald Trump, what's up is down and down is up. What's right is left and left is right. It is topsy-turvy, and Donald Trump's view of strength is actually weakness. I mean, you look at who Donald Trump admires the most. Obviously, number one is Vladimir Putin, but then Javier Milei in Argentina, right, where inflation is surging. The poverty rate there, like 40, 50% in Argentina. Not exactly what you'd want to use as the model for the United States, which is supposed to be kind of the icon of stability, which Donald Trump is shattering, turning our dollar into basically the Trump $ Trump meme coin, or the $ Melania meme coin at this point. And who else other than Javier Milei does Donald Trump look up to? Viktor Orban, who's turned Hungary into like a failed state. Contrast Hungary's just kind of awful economy with a democracy like Poland, which is thriving. Does Donald Trump like Poland? No, Donald Trump likes Hungary. And then you go and you see Nayib Bukele, the leader of El Salvador. And El Salvador is a poor Latin American country. Its entire annual GDP is like 34 billion. Right? Donald Trump attacks Canada, says Canada's weak. Canada's GDP is like 3 trillion. Donald Trump attacks Europe, like real wealthy nations. But Donald Trump loves Nayib Bukele. Why? Because the incarceration rate per capita in El Salvador is the highest anywhere in the world. Trump loves this image of Nayib Bukele sitting there, no tie, looking like this dictator of the modern age, chin lifted up, while they talk about torturing human beings. Trump loves the torture. That's why he loves Nayib Bukele. Just showing you other facts about El Salvador. The poverty rate in El Salvador is about 20 to 25%. About 10% of the country in El Salvador lives in extreme poverty. So it isn't exactly the success story that MAGA Republicans want to tell you about. But just think about it. El Salvador, Argentina, Hungary, Russia, North Korea, right? That's who Donald Trump admires. So with Nayib Bukele showing up, I can't but think of the contrast between how Donald Trump attacks our allies in the Oval Office, then the Trump propaganda media that's there would like attack Zelensky for not wearing a suit and tie. But here you have the authoritarian leader of a poor Latin American country who's now cut some partnership with Donald Trump so that the Trump regime can kidnap migrants, and soon they want to do this to American citizens. Kidnap them, disappear them to El Salvador, torture them, and put them in basically an extermination camp where they'll never be heard from or seen ever again. Like, that's what's going on. Let's use the right language. Let's not mince words about what's actually taking place here. So with that said, Bukele is sitting there with Donald Trump. And for these quote unquote strong men who claim they have all of the power, who are in a partnership with each other, you have Nayib Bukele in the Oval Office getting the VIP treatment saying, "There's nothing I can do. I cannot return Abrego Garcia. There's nothing I can do." What are you talking about? Here, watch this gaslighting 101. Let's play it.
How can I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? I don't have the power to return him to the United States.
So you can release him inside El Salvador?
Yeah, but I'm not releasing, we're not very fond of releasing terrorists into our country. We just turned the murder capital of the world into the safest country of the Western Hemisphere, and you want us to go back into the releasing criminals so we can go back to being the murder capital of the world? No, that's not going to happen.
They'd love to have a criminal, released into
there's a fascination.
They would love it.
Yeah.
Abrego Garcia has never been charged with a crime. He's been checking into the ICE detention centers in Maryland pursuant to his protected status order that was issued by a Trump immigration judge during 2019. That's what happened. And he was disappeared. Same thing with all these other individuals, like the gay hairdresser who fled Venezuela, and he had a tattoo that said mom and dad on his arms. But the Trump regime, which farmed this out to like private security guards. And when you look at some of these private security guards, their background was like they were fired from the police force. Well, they just use a point system. They're like, okay, 2 tattoos equals Tren de Aragua gang member or MS-13, send them to the gulags. And we've seen that repeat itself over and over again. 60 Minutes did a report that 75% of the people who are now in the extermination camp, the gulag in El Salvador, had no criminal record in their home country, no criminal record in the United States. Now I want to show you, though, what the Trump regime was saying, because this is Putin-esque to a T, which is, even though the Supreme Court ruled 9-0 against the Trump regime, and they said, Trump regime, you are hereby ordered to facilitate the return of Abrego Garcia and treat him as though he never left the country. And yes, the district court has jurisdiction. The attorney general, the top law enforcement officer in the United States, is going with the line that actually Trump won 9-0, even though he lost 9-0. Here, play this clip from Pam Bondi.
That's up to El Salvador if they want to return him. That's not up to us. The Supreme Court ruled, President, that if, as El Salvador wants to return him, this is international matters, foreign affairs. If they wanted to return him, we would facilitate it, meaning provide a plane.
I'm going to read for you what the Supreme Court said, so that it's very clear, because I think it's important that facts matter. But here's Stephen Miller, Donald Trump's other top authoritarian advisor. Here he talks about, oh, we won 9-0. The Supreme Court said Trump wins 9-0 when it literally did the opposite. Play this clip.
I promise you, if he was your neighbor, you would move right away.
So you don't plan to ask for it and get it back?
And
that-
what was the ruling in the Supreme Court, Steve? Was it 9-0?
Yes, there's a 9-0
In our favor.
in our favor against the district court ruling, saying that no district court has the power to compel the foreign policy function of the United States. As Pam said, the ruling solely stated that if this individual, at El Salvador's sole discretion, was sent back to our country, that we could deport him a second time.
Well,
No version of this legally ends up with him ever living here, because he is a citizen of El Salvador. That is the president of El Salvador. Your questions about it, per the court, can only be directed to him.
I asked.
And I want to be clear here. First, the Supreme Court did not say that at all. The Supreme Court actually said the opposite. Second, this is more than just Abrego Garcia, although it's a travesty. If any human being, we're talking about human beings, are treated like trash and sent to extermination camps, because that's what they are, and disappeared and never heard from again. But it starts with Abrego Garcia, and then it moves on to American citizens. And then it moves on to people who Donald Trump says are the enemy of the people, who Donald Trump says are criminals, right? It's people in the media. It's people like prosecutors Donald Trump doesn't like. It's politicians who Donald Trump doesn't like, who he calls scum, who he calls vermin. Remember how we covered that during the campaign, and the media didn't want to acknowledge the parallels between Trump's language and Hitler's language, and we made it very, very clear. Well, here's Donald Trump on a hot mic speaking to Bukele about the homegrowns. Donald Trump says the homegrowns need to be next, Nayib. This was before the official press conference took place, but they were mic'd up. And Trump goes, you got to build 5 more places for the homegrowns. Here, play this clip.
Demanded the people wanted to change everything, and they wanted. He demanded, they love you, they love what you do. You know, I'm not your supporter. I want them to do, homegrown criminals next. Yeah. I said, homegrowns are next. The homegrowns, you got to build about 5 more places. Yeah, that's fair. All right.
It's not big enough.
No, yeah.
Come on. So this is a much different office.
5 more facilities. He says you got to go after the homegrowns next. Brett and Jordy, I want to get your reaction. Then I want to go through just what I want to read what the Supreme Court actually said, so people can hear not my commentary, but the language.
I just think it's all the epitome of evil. And I think it's just so Orwellian to take something that was so clear cut, like a unanimous Supreme Court ruling against the Trump administration, and then try to pretend like it was actually for the Trump administration. I mean, what they're doing right now is what autocratic nations have done throughout history forever. They lie, they make up fake justifications for their actions, they try to create their own reality. And I got to say, what we're witnessing right now, it's a billion times more evil than anything we saw during the Trump administration. This pales in comparison. We've never seen anything like this throughout all of American history anything at this level of evil that we are seeing right now with this administration. And it is just sickening to the core, especially hearing, not only that Donald Trump is now trying to go after American citizens, trying to send them to these El Salvadoran prison camps, trying to expand this program, which has been so horrific. I mean, there was the court filing that the Trump administration filed the other day, and they've been incredibly evasive with the district court judge about this issue, where the district court judge was simply asking, is Abrego Garcia alive? Is this person still living? We need proof of life. And even the way they answer those questions are just so offensive to me. They say, per what we've heard from the ministry in El Salvador, he is alive, just all sort of hearsay, not actually saying, yes, we know he's alive. Here's a photo. Here's what we know. They are just trying to toy with the courts here. And quite frankly, shame on the Supreme Court. Because this is what happens when you do these decisions like the immunity decision and you give Donald Trump essentially full power to do whatever the heck he wants. Guess what he's going to do? You think he's going to hold back? No, he's going to say, well, I have immunity from doing anything. What's the Supreme Court going to do? They've already ruled in my favor on immunity. What are these district courts going to do? What's the DOJ going to do? I control them. You gave Donald Trump carte blanche to do this. And by the way, at least the time that we are live right now on this, I've not heard the Supreme Court come out with a statement rebuking Donald Trump for his twisting and complete fabrication of the Supreme Court's order. And to me, this is a constitutional crisis that demands a crisis-like response. It demands an emergency response from the Supreme Court to be incredibly clear and unequivocal about this, that Donald Trump is violating their order.
And the Trump regime, they lie as easy as people breathe. I mean, this is why we say you can't trust anything that comes out of the Trump regime because, well, what we're showing you right now. I mean, it's so upsetting to me that these people have so much control over the lives of the American citizens, and yet they're the most despicable and hateful people. It's cruelty for cruelty's sake. It's unbelievable to see play out. And quite honestly, it's just frankly upsetting to me as someone who deeply loves this country to see our quote unquote leadership act in such a way that just makes a mockery of our Constitution, that makes a mockery of our country and of the great people that make up this country.
And I want to be clear, if they could say this about Abrego Garcia, if they could so nonchalantly sit there in the Oval Office of the United States of America, sit in our White House, the People's House, they could sit there and go, this person's a criminal, this person's a terrorist, no more questions. We've deemed that to be the facts. And so they're okay to be shipped off to this El Salvadoran prison camp. I'm telling you, if they could do it to him, they could do it to you. That's all they have to say in their world to justify their actions. And you see that they are more than willing to do so.
It's because Donald Trump, though, is causing such grievous harm to the economy, to the dollar, to the bond markets, though, that I actually think that lots of people give a crap. I unfortunately think that if it wasn't affecting people's money, that they would, a lot of people would be okay about the authoritarian extermination stuff that Donald Trump is doing, which I think is absolutely reprehensible. So the fact that the economy is having this level of volatility with the tariffs all backfiring at the same time of the extermination camps in El Salvador, they then become inextricably intertwined. So I think that's just an important point. And then, Brett, your point of having this El Salvador dictator sit there, feign that they don't have any authority whatsoever in the People's House, in the Oval Office, is a image and a message that is something that I think still needs to even be processed how bad it is. Let me just read from the Supreme Court ruling so people can know what the Supreme Court actually said. So the Supreme Court said the district court's order properly requires the government to facilitate Abrego Garcia's release from custody in El Salvador and to ensure that this case is handled as it would have been had he not been improperly sent to El Salvador. That's the 9-0. Had he not been improperly sent to El Salvador, okay? Now, the Supreme Court does go on to say the intended scope of the term effectuate in the district court's order is, however, unclear and may exceed the district court's authority. The district court should clarify its directive with due regard for the deference owed to the executive branch and the conduct of foreign affairs. For its part, the government should be prepared to share what it can concerning the steps it has taken and the prospect of further steps. The order heretofore entered by the Chief Justice is vacated. So the Trump regime reads that last part as saying, we've taken all the steps. We asked Bukele, and Bukele says, nope. So now there's nothing we can do. So you can't force us to do anything. That is it. Let me read you the opinion that is by the 3 liberal justices who agree with the disposition of the Supreme Court's ruling, saying, facilitate the return and treat Abrego had he not been improperly sent to an extermination camp in El Salvador. Let me read for you just how powerful this language is. It says, the United States government arrested Abrego Garcia in Maryland and flew him to a, quote, terrorism confinement center in El Salvador, where he has been detained for 26 days and counting. To this day, the government has cited no basis in law for Abrego Garcia's warrantless arrest, his removal to El Salvador, or his confinement in a Salvadoran prison, nor could it. The government remains bound by an immigration judge's 2019 order expressly prohibiting Garcia's removal to El Salvador because he faced a clear probability of future prosecution there and demonstrated that El Salvador's authorities were and would be unwilling to protect him. The government has not challenged the validity of that order. Instead of hastening to correct its egregious error, the government dismissed it as an oversight. The government now requests an order from the court permitting it to leave Abrego Garcia, a husband and father without a criminal record, in a Salvadoran prison for no reason recognized by law. The only argument the government offers in support of its request is that the United States courts cannot grant relief once a deportee crosses the border, and that is plainly wrong. The government, moreover, implies that it could deport and incarcerate any person, including U.S. citizens, without a legal consequence, so long as it does so before a court can intervene. Because every factor governing requests for equitable relief manifestly weigh against the government, I would have declined to intervene in this litigation at all and denied the application in full. Nevertheless, I agree with the court's order that the proper remedy is to provide Abrego Garcia with all the process to which he would have been entitled had he not been unlawfully removed to El Salvador. That means the government must comply with its obligation to provide Abrego Garcia with, quote, due process of law, including notices and an opportunity to be heard in any future proceedings. It must also comply with its obligations under the Convention Against Torture. Does that sound like a 9-0 opinion that Trump won? I just read from you what the Supreme Court ruled. And Brett, just one note, the Supreme Court on its own is not going to just issue statements. The case has to go back to be heard before they're even allowed to comment, which it will that's going to happen. But now the question is that they're already being defied. And the Trump regime's going to say, okay, Supreme Court, you said facilitate, we facilitated. He's in El Salvador. There's nothing we can do. And the reason why the absolute immunity opinion is so significant is that had the Supreme Court not given Trump immunity, Trump or someone in that position would be afraid that they can be personally charged with murder, right? Like kidnapping, like it would be a crime what took place. But because the Supreme Court said, well, you get immunity, there's no ramifications other than the Supreme Court saying, you've been naughty. And that is why the Trump regime is doing what it's doing. I want to talk about more aspects of what went down in that Oval Office, meeting. I want to talk about Trump's talking about more tariffs on pharmaceuticals this time and the chaos that's causing with Treasury yields, the 10 and 20 year soaring now, the dollar at some of its weakest levels almost ever, money finding its way into the London gold market now because America's not looked at as a stable economy anymore. Mortgage rates above 7%, a lot of instability here. I want to remind everybody that on Thursday, we will have our Patreon meeting with all of our patrons, the state of the resistance, the state of the opposition, the state of the MeidasTouch Network. If you ever wanted to meet Brett, Jordy, and myself. That's where you do it. You can ask us questions. There's a secret link on patreon.com/MeidasTouch. On Thursday, as soon as that live show ends, we'll go right into the Zoom meeting, and you'll click on the secret link. Also, store.MeidasTouch.com. Get your Meidas merch, including 100% made in Canada maple Meidas merch. That's store.MeidasTouch.com. Of course, Canadians, you know we had to make it elbows up, 100% made in Canada. And then for everybody else, you've got the other Meidas Touch gear at store.MeidasTouch.com. We've got a lot more show, a lot more to discuss, including what's going on with the Fight the Oligarchy tour. We'll talk about that and more. Let's take our first quick break of the show.
Hey guys, Brett here, and I've got to tell you, I am absolutely loving Via. I've been using their Dream Gummies, and it has seriously changed the game for me. Whether I'm winding down after a long day or trying to stay locked in during work, Via helps me feel my best. It doesn't help that it tastes amazing too. Sometimes it's so hard to sleep with all that's going on in the world. I'm sure you guys could understand. That's why Via's Dream Gummies have really been a game changer for me. With 420 right around the corner, there's no better time to elevate your wellness routine. Via blends organic lab-tested hemp with effect-driven formulas to help you sleep better, boost your mood, ease anxiety, you name it. They've got options ranging from 0 to high THC, so whether you're looking to microdose or go full send, you're covered. Trusted by over 500,000 happy customers, Via is changing the game in natural wellness, blending powerful, high-quality hemp-derived ingredients to deliver real, effect-driven benefits. Whether you're looking to sleep better, have better libido, improve focus, recover, or simply relax, Via has a tailored solution just for you. And the best part, Via legally ships across the USA, discreet, direct to your door, no medical card required, and backed by a worry-free guarantee. Not sure where to start? Take Via's product finder quiz to get personalized recommendations tailored to your needs. It could take you less than 60 seconds to complete. If you're 21 or over, check out the link to Via in our description and treat yourself to Via's annual Spring 420 sale. Black Friday level savings up to 35% site-wide right now, up to 50% off packs and bundles, and a free gift, plus more savings with your first order using our exclusive code MeidAS. That's MEIDAS. Plus, enjoy free shipping on orders over $100. That's code MeidAS, MEIDAS, at the link in our description. After you purchase, they ask where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them that we sent you. Enhance your everyday with Via.
The weather is heating up, and your nighttime bedroom temperature has a huge impact on your sleep quality. If you wake up too hot or too cold, I highly recommend that you check out Miracle Made's bed sheets. Miracle Made sheets are inspired by NASA and use silver-infused fabrics that are temperature regulating, so you can sleep at the perfect temperature all night long. Now, using those silver-infused fabrics inspired by NASA, Miracle Made sheets are thermoregulating and designed to keep you at the perfect temperature all night long, no matter the weather, so you get better sleep every night. These sheets are infused with silver that prevent up to 99.7% of bacterial growth, leaving them to stay cleaner and fresh 3 times longer than other sheets. No more gross odors. Miracle Made sheets are luxuriously comfortable without the high price tag of other luxury brands and feel as nice, if not nicer, than sheets used by some 5-star hotels. Stop sleeping on bacteria. Bacteria can clog your pores, causing breakouts and acne. Sleep clean with Miracle. Upgrade your sleep as the weather heats up. Go to trymiracle.com/Meidas to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo code MeidAS at checkout, you'll get free 3-piece towel set and save an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you'll get a full refund. Upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/Meidas and use the code MeidAS to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40% off. Again, that's trymiracle.com/Meidas to treat yourself. Thank you, Miracle Made, for sponsoring this episode. Let's go. Shout out to our sponsors. Shout out Via. Shout out Miracle Made. Please put in the comments if y'all have used those products before, because they are wonderful. I know we got a huge Miracle Made and Via audience, so let people know. What do they say? The best recommendations are from the people for the people. So let us know if you've had those. Benji, remember, links in description of YouTube and audio. And then Ben, where do you want to go next?
Well, I think just in case you're all losing track on these tariffs. So first, Donald Trump announced on what he called Liberation Day, which is really Annihilation Day or Liquidation Day, that there were going to be reciprocal tariffs, but actually they were not reciprocal tariffs, and they were imposed on everyone other than Russia and the Taliban in Afghanistan. The Penguins were retaliated against, and somehow they got tariffs as well. And then we learned that it was like some cockamamie formula based on the deficit being used as a measure of how the Trump regime viewed tariffs going against the United States. So then tariffs went down to 10% on everyone but China for 90 days. And then actually, we then learned that there's still 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada, even though they weren't included on the Liberation Day chart. And then there was 50% more tariffs on China and 50% more tariffs on China, but then not computers and electronics, but then maybe on computers and electronics. Also, due to a system glitch, a lot of the tariffs haven't been collected. Also, some of the tariffs may have to be returned on computers and electronics. So the External Revenue Service is actually the External Return Service. Also, there's going to be separate tariffs on steel, pharmaceuticals, and semiconductors. Maybe it's possibly there's going to be just some gifts given to Tim Cook and maybe to some automakers temporarily. Trump doesn't know. We're going to have to find out what he posts next. Okay, now if you are a business, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? How is there going to be M&A activity, mergers and acquisitions? How do you know what the cost of your supplies? How are you going to make projections? You're going to build a factory? Are you not going to build a factory? Is Donald Trump going to wake up and make this post or that post? Donald Trump in the Oval Office was asked about additional tariffs, and he talks about tariffs on pharmaceuticals. That's one of the big ones that he wants to go after. Tariffs on pharma. Here, listen to what Donald Trump said in this bizarre and dangerous press conference with Nayib Bukele. Let's play it.
Question?
On tariffs?
No, not you. Not
Update today on potential semiconductor tariffs and potentially pharmaceuticals.
What?
Semiconductor tariffs and potentially pharmaceuticals.
Pharmaceuticals we're going to do. We don't make our own drugs, our own pharmaceuticals. We don't make our own drugs anymore. The drug companies are in Ireland and they're in lots of other places, China. And all I have to do is impose a tariff. The more, the faster they move in. The higher the tariff, it's very serious. It's inversely proportional. The higher the tariff, the faster they come. And yeah, we're going to be doing that. That's going to be like we have on cars. We have, as you know, a 25% tariff on cars. We have a 25% tariff on steel and aluminum. And that's what that category fits right now.
Do you have a percentage?
Yeah, it's unclear what the hell he's even doing. And by the way, I'm not sure if you noticed that moment at the very beginning where he got asked a question and he just looked at the reporter, and I think it was a female reporter, and he was like, not you, and kind of just like shooed off the reporter. That's not normal behavior. I know in the swing of things what he does, like people just ignore that behavior. I mean, could you imagine again, just like the CEO of a company behaving like this? You couldn't. You know why? Because if someone was a sexual predator, a sexual abuser found liable for sexual assault, someone's a felon 34 times over, someone found liable for fraud, and someone who's bankrupted business after business after business in their life is a destroyer, not a builder. And by the way, someone who speaks in front of kids, like Donald Trump spoke at the Young Republicans in New York in the past 2 years and said the most courageous thing he was told he did, he claims, by someone who was a general who said he's seen death on the battlefield, was tell Donald Trump how courageous it was when Trump referred to sexually assaulting women as locker room talk. Trump said that's real courage. That's part of the message to the Young Republicans, okay? There's a reason why character matters. And why Donald Trump's character is disqualifying. I won't even get into it on the show. I covered it elsewhere as well. But like Donald Trump released what he claimed to be his physical, and they described he is clearly in good health, as indicated by the fact that he's won many golf tournaments recently. It actually says that. And then it refers to what took place in Butler, Pennsylvania, as his ear being scared. It says his ear was scared. The word is scarred. And they don't even know how to spell it. And then they claim he's 6'3", 220 or 224. It's the most ridiculous document ever. And I know just sometimes like the way the question was asked and, saying that, oh, he's so strong because he wins golf tournaments. In the swing of things, it seems minimal, but it's all part of this demented mindset of this insane, despicable, vile human being. And then just talking about Donald Trump not answering that question and Donald Trump defying court orders. Trump is defying a court order from a judge that Trump appointed in D.C. Judge McFadden is a Trump-appointed judge who ordered that the Associated Press be able to return to the White House press corps and be able to ask questions. A Trump-appointed judge, but the Trump regime will say all of these leftist injunctions that they're killing everything, all these leftists, this, leftist, that. Trump-appointed judge, Trump's refusing to abide by that court order as well. Utterly despicable. And Brett, Jordy, speaking about utterly despicable, what Donald Trump said about Zelensky at this press conference and over the past, it's been since he took office, but forever. But while Trump's there with Nayib Bukele, while Donald Trump previously, I guess, 3 days ago at this point, sent Steve Witkoff, his special envoy to St. Petersburg. Witkoff looks at Putin, puts his hand over his chest. Looks like he's pledging allegiance. Laura Loomer, the 9/11 conspiracy theorist, posts about how strong Steve Witkoff is with a photo of him shaking Putin's hand and putting his hand over his heart. And Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, is reposting a 9/11 conspiracy theorist, reposting a video from the Kremlin of an American special envoy putting his hand over his heart and greeting Vladimir Putin. Okay, did you, what in the Mad Libs is that, right? Did you hear that? All of that happened. Then Trump in the Oval Office, here he is attacking Zelensky. Let's play it.
Go, let's not start
Mr. President,
because they're just so
Mr. President.
wrong. Yeah, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. You repeatedly mentioned last night that Russia's attack on Ukraine was a mistake. What is the exact mistake? And had you given Putin a deadline to actually move toward a ceasefire?
The mistake was letting the war happen. If Biden were competent, and if Zelensky were competent, and I don't know that he is. We had a rough session with this guy over here. He just kept asking for more and more. That war should have never been allowed to happen. That war, I went 4 years and Putin wouldn't even bring it up. And as soon as the election was rigged and I wasn't here, that war started. There was no way that war should have been allowed to happen. And Biden should have stopped it. And you take a look at Putin. I'm not saying anybody's an angel, but I will tell you, I went 4 years and it wasn't even a question. He would never, and I told him, don't do it. You're not going to do it. And it was the apple of his eye, but there was no
apple of his eye. He says the 2020 election was rigged. He blames Zelensky for Putin invading Zelensky. He calls Zelensky not competent with Nayib Bukele, the leader of a poor authoritarian Latin American country, sitting by his side.
Yeah, and it's just the whole thing is horrific to watch. He continues to make an enemy out of Volodymyr Zelensky. He calls what Putin did a mistake. I mean, that's the most that he could say, that it's a mistake. And when he says that, he clarifies there that he's not even saying that, which is like maybe the best way that you could even decipher this. He's not even saying that Putin made a mistake. He's saying the mistake was made by Zelensky and it was made by Biden because the war should have never been started. 34 people died in these missile strikes. Putin is essentially laughing in Donald Trump's face, as Donald Trump said in the first 24 hours that he would solve the Ukraine issue. He said he was going to be able to just get everybody together and fix this thing. And ever since Donald Trump even started to do anything here, tried to bring the sides together, Putin has just been mocking him with these attacks. The second Donald Trump says, oh, we have an idea about this peace treaty, bombs start falling in Kyiv. Bombs start falling throughout Ukraine. It's the same pattern we see over and over again. And now 2 children died in these attacks, 34 people total, 117 people were wounded. And Donald Trump can't even build the courage to say that was wrong. He can't even say the minimum here right now because he's on Vladimir Putin's side. He wants Putin to be killing Ukrainians. He wants to embrace dictators like Bukele and Putin and Orban and all these folks around the world. That's who Donald Trump has an affinity for. He does not have an affinity for the free world, for our allies. And that's why right now the United States is quite frankly not a rational partner to be dealing with in the world. Donald Trump has completely upended the entire world order, the entire global order. And that's why you see leaders like Mark Carney coming out and saying the United States cannot be trusted anymore. That's why you see people from the EU coming out and saying the United States cannot be trusted anymore. This is happening all across the world right now. And it's because of one individual, Donald Trump, and those sycophants around him, like the Marco Rubios, who damn well know better, and then but are embracing fringe figures who are now, I guess, part of the mainstream in Donald Trump's administration, like Laura Loomer, and are just parroting everything that Donald Trump says, which are the most despicable things imaginable.
The closest he got to criticizing Putin was saying he's not an angel. That was it. Then he spent the rest of that answer criticizing Zelensky, criticizing former President Biden. And I just sincerely ask, the reporters in that room, I know you care about that access. I know you do. I know you hold this as a high regard. And look, I appreciate your craft. I genuinely do. But please, for the love of this country, you need to push back on the guy. You need to say, you are president right now. What are you going to do about this? What are your thoughts about this? And don't let him escape on, I didn't know about that. Or I haven't read that yet. Stop it. Stop it. This isn't a freaking game. This isn't a game show. These are real world consequences. These are people's lives. People are dying. He's the leader of the free world, whether we like it or not. Hold his feet to the goddamn fire and ask him some questions.
Well, I have to disagree with you there. I got to disagree with you that he's no longer the leader of the free world. Like, let's be very clear. Like, he's not. America right now is like a bigger version of North Korea to the rest of them. No one's looking towards America. We were the leader of the free world. America looks like a pariah regime right now, a la North Korea. Europe is forming its own alliances, and Canada looking to Europe as more reliable partners. Australia looking to Europe. That's the dynamic right there. I think we saw from the European Commission, when they send their diplomats over, they now go through the same protocols as though they were going to Russia or China. They bring burner phones and they protect themselves as though the United States is a hostile nation. That's from the Financial Times. And who's this benefiting most? Xi Jinping is just feasting, right? He's going to Australia to buy beef over there. He's going to all these other countries saying, join the BRICS bloc. He's going to Europe and saying, hey, we're going to make our BYD electric vehicles available to you. Why don't we do deals with you? We're a better partner than the United States, and we should be relied upon more. So that's who's benefiting most from this. And then something that I think's gone underreported as well, but it's one of the biggest stories, is that you have China suspending the rare earth exports as part of the trade war. And I think Spencer Hakimian points this out aptly here, where he goes, I don't think people are appreciating what this means, that China is suspending rare earth exports as the trade war with the U.S. escalates. You can't build weapons, drones, radars, cars, smartphones, laptops, MRI machines, CT scans without rare earth minerals. China has about a 95% market share over these minerals and their refinement, and has chosen to stop exporting them to the United States. This will be front cover news within a few days. Just wait. And Brett, I think you've mentioned this before. You're like, my level of viewing what the business community is saying is at an all-time low. Also, business news reporters who always underplay the facts. It would be like in a tsunami where the water is receding and most people would say a tsunami's coming. They're like, that just looks like a unique wave pattern that's taking place. It's like, say what's happening so people can prepare for it, because what China's doing there and the way China is just outplaying Trump in this trade war every step of the way, the fact that the impact is being felt now, that's the actual shocking part, because we know it's going to be felt soon when the data starts picking all of this stuff up. That was supposed to happen more like the summer or at the end of the year, but it's happening already, Brett.
Oh, right now the economy is it's in a really bad place, and we see the dollar falling every single day. We're just seeing a weakening of the United States as people around the world realize like that the United States can't be trusted to do business with. And I think that's a first in a very long time that is the case. It's interesting because I think we have a benefit here that we have a global audience, which is something super cool that's just really incredible for us to have. We get to speak with people all across the world. We get to get feedback from people all across the world. And not that we necessarily needed verification of this, but when Donald Trump says things like America's never been more respected, those are the first people to tell us, everybody here is laughing at you right now. Everyone here is scared of you right now. And this is not the United States that we are supposed to be as a country. And so we do need to fight back against this every step of the way. I see some great movements building up every single day, every single week in this country. You see the 50-51 protests all across the country. The protest that we saw April 5th, there's going to be more, I think, later this weekend. And then you see Bernie Sanders and AOC. They're building these crowds, the Fighting Oligarchy tour. And you see that the people have had enough. The people do not want to live in a United States of America that looks like this, that looks more like North Korea or Russia or Nazi Germany than it does the United States of America. So I'm calling on everybody out here right now to continue to fight back, because the autocrats want you to give up. They want you to be so overwhelmed with anything, but I know that this community will not do that. So keep fighting, keep pushing ahead. Let's make them more afraid of us than we are of them. And let's continue to spread pro-democracy values and just be a team in this pro-democracy movement.
Look, we've got a lot more to discuss. I also want to send our kind of a heartfelt message to Governor Shapiro, Jordy, of your state, of the Commonwealth, who was targeted for an assassination attempt. The governor's residence received serious damage when an arsonist lit it on fire. And the plan by this arsonist, by this individual who engaged in an attempted murder, was to go there and to kill Governor Shapiro on Passover with a hammer. By the way, what Donald Trump mocked Nancy Pelosi's husband for being a victim of a hammer attack, which Trump and the MAGA Republicans there kind of, played off as like some sort of, sick, twisted joke. When we get back, I'll show you when Trump was asked about Governor Shapiro, Trump said nothing. He goes, I heard about it. No message of sympathy, of like, we're with you, like that can't be tolerated, nothing at all. But instead, Donald Trump wanted to talk about the Masters, the golf tournament. Donald Trump posing in front of gold statues of himself. He's building more gold statues of himself at his properties when he goes back over the weekend to golf and vacation. We're going to talk about that and more. We're going to take our last quick break of the show. I want to remind everybody, though, that on Thursday, we're holding the State of MeidasTouch Zoom meeting. Go to patreon.com/MeidasTouch. There's a secret link there for how you join that meeting. You could ask me and my brothers questions if you ever wanted to do that. Also, go to store.MeidasTouch.com. Get those Maple Midas shirts. It should be noted, even though they're 100% made and manufactured in Canada, you can still get them in the U.S. as well. I know a lot of people in the U.S. want their Maple Midas gear as well. But for the Canadians, we had to make it 100% made in Canada, manufactured in Canada. Also, lots of other great gear at store.MeidasTouch.com. Check it out. We'll be right back after our last quick break of the show.
We live in an environment that our biology was never designed for. EMFs, artificial light, seed oils, microplastics, endocrine disruptors, chronic stress. Now these modern assaults, they disrupt our cellular signaling, negatively impacting gut health and accelerating aging. Armra Colostrum revives cellular signaling, bolstering our health from within to defend against everyday threats. Colostrum is nature's first whole food with over 400 bioactive nutrients that work at the cellular level to reactivate your body's innate capacity to regenerate and thrive. Are you ready to reclaim your health? Look, I love Armra Colostrum. I know you will too. It has helped me so much. We've worked out a special offer for our audience. Receive 15% off your first order. Go to tryarmra.com/Meidas or enter Meidas to get 15% off your first order. That's tryarmra.com/Meidas. Tryarmra.com/Meidas.
So every now and then we're reminded about those many healthy resolutions we made over the years to lose weight, to exercise more, and of course to eat better. But a goal without a plan is a plan to fail. So what I did is I tried Prolon. Prolon's 5-day program gives you the tool to put your health goals into action with a science-backed plan that makes it easy to stay focused and achieve real results. Go back and look at some videos of me from about 3 to 4 months ago before I tried Prolon. Prolon has made a difference for me, and I think it'll make a difference for you as well. So here's what it does. Prolon's fasting mimicking diet is a revolutionary plant-based nutrition program that nourishes the body while making cells believe they're fasting. It was researched and developed for decades at USC's Longevity Institute. By the way, I teach at USC Law. It all starts with their 5-day program, snacks, soups, and beverages designed to keep your body in a fasting state. No guesswork or planning required. 3 consecutive cycles of Prolon have been shown to reduce your biological age score by an average of 2.5 years and your waist circumference by 1.5 inches. It worked for me. As I said, go look at some videos for me in the past. I tried it. It worked. I think it'll work for you as well. So help kickstart a health plan for you that'll work. Prolon is now offering the MeidasTouch podcast listeners like you 15% off site-wide plus a $40 bonus gift when you subscribe to their 5-day nutrition program. Just visit prolonlife.com/Meidas. That's prolonlife.com/Meidas to claim your 15% discount and your bonus gift. prolonlife.com/Meidas. Check it out.
Let's go. Links in description of both the YouTube and the audio. Use the links, use the codes. Let them know we sent you if they ask you on an exit survey or something like that. Benji, where to next?
Let me just read to you what former President Biden stated, the statement that he put out. Jill and I are disgusted by the attack on Governor Shapiro and Shapiro's family and their home during the first night of Passover. We are relieved that they are safe and grateful to the first responders. There is no place for this type of evil in America. And as I told the governor yesterday, we must stand united against hatred and violence. As Carl Quintanilla writes, at least one U.S. president cares to denounce this attack. You know, a lot of what we talk about here on the MeidasTouch Network, I think, is beyond politics, right? I mean, I like to think of what we do here first as beyond fighting for, you know, a political thing or that. It's like empathy, honesty, like truth, objectivity, equality, workers. And then I think once you're there and you have the strong values and principles set, then the politics falls in line. But we have to start with the fact that a governor of a state in the United States was targeted, a Jewish governor also was on Passover, was targeted with an assassination attempt on Passover. And you don't even hear Donald Trump saying anything about it. I mean, just think about that statement I just read from former President Biden. But the media wants to be like, "Ooh, Bukele, you've got a cool dictator in the White House." You know, or like, or Trump spending the day glazing an authoritarian. And again, I don't want to ever lose sight of it's not normal that a president of the United States does not acknowledge and express sympathy and solidarity with a governor or anyone who goes through that situation who's targeted with an assassination attempt. You know, like, not to even mention, right? And I did a whole video on this too. Like, Donald Trump denied the governor of North Carolina's request for additional FEMA aid from Hurricane Helene, the same way to emergency removal of debris, right? I mean, with everything, that story gets lost and drowned out. The same way Donald Trump denied the request by the governor of Georgia, Republican Governor Kemp of Georgia's similar request for the removal of debris. Donald Trump, I mean, come on. Like, you should not be okay with that, regardless of what political party that you're from. You should not be okay with the fact that you have the head of Health and Human Services, our health department here, RFK Jr., doing exactly what people warned about, bringing in people who are vaccine deniers, going to post things to the website that spreads lies about vaccines. You shouldn't be okay about that at all. You shouldn't be okay. that they are attacking Medicaid, that necessarily in their Republican Trump budget plan, it's $880 billion in cuts to Medicaid. That's just what it says. It's what it says. They want to hide it, but that's what's in there. We already know Social Security Administration offices are being shut down. Again, to me, regardless of what political party you're from, you should not be cool with that. Here's Donald Trump landing in D.C. today. He's asked about Shapiro and the assassination attempt. Here's what Trump says. Let's play it.
Mr. President, any reaction to the governor of Pennsylvania, his mansion was set on fire? Do you have any reaction?
I just heard about it. No, I have to look into it.
You got the perfect health report. Everybody in the press wants to know this. How do you do it, Mr. President? I haven't set up the 2 a.m.
And did you hear the second question by one of the propagandist media? You have incredible health, Mr. President. How are you staying so healthy? I mean, maybe he's lying. Maybe because the report is like a bunch of bullshit. He's not 220 pounds and it's not how much he weighs. Okay. It says his ear is scared. You mean scarred. Okay. We've never seen scarring on the ear. He claims his ear was hit with an AR-15 bullet, but he didn't need stitches and refused to release the report from the Butler Medical Center. Okay. He claims that he's in perfect mental health, and you can tell because he wins golf tournaments. As Sean Broderick says, there's an old saying from Turkey, I think. When a clown moves into a palace, he doesn't become a king. The palace becomes a circus. Boy, do I think of that a lot lately. And thinking about the circus, by the way, no offense to clowns. These are fascist clowns. So clowns is a real profession. Elon Musk now saying that what Doge is going to just be able to cut 150 billion. That's his claim. And I think 100 billion of that is also in doubt. There's more federal government. Remember, he said it was going to be 2 trillion in cuts. 2 trillion. That was their promise. Now they're saying 150 billion. About 100 billion seems made up from that as well. And there's more federal government spending now with their hostile government takeover and destruction of our federal government, firing veterans. Think about the impacts of what's going to happen, though, with future pandemics and illnesses and aviation issues and all of the above as a result of what they're doing. And Brett and Jordy, did you notice the turnaround in a short period of time of this morning consult poll from last week to this week? Congressional trust on issues, whom voters trust more on issues like the economy and national security, national debt, foreign policy. The Republicans were ahead just last week. And pretty much now, Democrats are ahead on essentially every issue. The economy +3. It's the first time since May 2021 that more voters trust Democrats than Republicans to handle economy. Like that's like their issue. And then if you look at the remaining issues, more people trust Democrats in foreign policy, taxes, the economy, trade, energy, Medicare, healthcare, abortion, LGBTQ. And still more people, for whatever reason, trust Republicans on immigration, national security, and national debt. I think a lot of it has to do also, though, Brett and Jordy, with the fact that Democrats are fighting back. They're doing the Fight the Oligarchy tour. They're taking the message to the people in red states and purple states and areas as well. And they're actually fighting. And voila, when you fight, it has results. And we're seeing that, huh?
Yeah, the fight is important because right now what we're seeing, I'm sure a lot of you have heard the saying death by 1,000 cuts. We're seeing death by 1,000 cuts to the United States of America every single day. And oftentimes, you see the one big event like the Signal event. You see the incident with Zelensky in the Oval Office. You see the deranged press conferences where he has his stooges asking the questions. Each of those on its own is crazy. And you're like, okay, that was a crazy singular incident that happens. Together, it's that death by 1,000 cuts. And when you stack it all together, you realize, oh my gosh, America has already transformed into an authoritarian nation. It's happened right before our eyes every single day. 1,000 cuts every single day, just destroying the democracy that we all knew and love. Thankfully, there are people out there speaking out. Bernie Sanders this weekend, I've seen a few different quotes for the LA crowd. I've seen upwards of like 70,000 people out here in LA for that Bernie crowd in LA. Whatever the number was, it was a whole lot of people. And that was almost just like the start, because now Bernie and AOC, they're going to all these Republican areas now. They're going to Montana, they're going to Idaho, they were in Utah. I mean, they had so many many people in Utah. They filled the Huntsman Arena completely. So we're at 20,000 people in the arena by itself. But that wasn't it. They filled the overflow area. Like as far as the eye could see, you saw people in the overflow area. That's in Utah, which is supposed to be red state Utah. Bernie Sanders and AOC able to get those sorts of crowds. And you're seeing people are flocking to their ideas because they're good ideas. They are ideas that speak about the needs of people, that speak about to cost of living, that speaks about Donald Trump as a dictator, that speaks to people's want for universal health care. They are speaking to people right now. And it is such a contrast to what Donald Trump is offering and what Donald Trump is doing right now every single day to the American people. And it's giving folks what we really need right now more than anything. And that's hope. Because like I say on the show, the thing that authoritarians want is they want you to give up. They want to beat you down so bad that you don't even want to wake up in the day and fight back. But what AOC right now, what Bernie are doing, they're getting out there. They're keeping people hopeful. They're keeping people strong. And most importantly, when it's not even an election year, they are out there building a movement. That is the most important thing. I see people be like, okay, but what does it matter? They got crowds here. They got crowds there. How do you think movements form? You don't just go a week before the election and go, okay, everybody, here are my ideas. Let's go beat them. That's not how it works. You got to build a movement from the ground up. And that's exactly the kind of work right now that Bernie and AOC and the other folks who are joining the tour are putting in.
It's so perfectly said, Brett, right? What's one of the expressions we say on the show? ABC, always be campaigning. And now we get to see that play out in real life. And it's not campaigning just for campaigning's sake, right? These are good ideas. These are ideas for the people. They're timely ideas. It really matters to people. And you can't just show up, Brett, to your point, 3 months before an election and expect that folks just have your back because you're the Democratic Party. No. The Democratic Party, it's truly the party for people. It's the party for the working class. It's the party for America, hands down. But that's why the ideals and ideas constantly get lost in the shit show that is our politics, because the Republicans like to grab the microphone and just spout all this MAGA nonsense and frankly lie to the American people. So to get out in front of crowds, to go to states, to go to red states as Democrats and hear your message resonate and hear it loud and hear people understand, like, I get this. I am for this. Yes. And not be concerned that the next election is 2.5, 3 years away. No, you got to get those ideas. You got to get the movement going now.
So let's show some of those ideas, because here's the thing. The moment politics becomes gamified, right, and it's viewed like a sporting event, there's the team Democrats, the team Republicans, do a split screen, watch people fight in 2-minute sound bites, and then go to the next one and show anger and rage and who's going to win. You know, I saw this interview over the weekend on Meet the Press with Senator Cory Booker and Kristen Welker, the host of Meet the Press. What her main focus was this weekend is, so what do you think about Kamala Harris running in 2028? And Booker was like, stop. And that's not what I'm trying to talk about. I want to talk about the people suffering right now and what we're doing to address that. And Welker from Meet the Press, she would keep pushing. But I really want to know, what do you think about Kamala? Are you going to support her right now? And he's like, stop asking me those questions. She'll make whatever decision she wants to make. I want to talk about what's happening to the people. I want to talk about the fact that people are being disappeared to concentration camps, that people are losing their life savings. I want to talk about that veterans are being fired and having their lives destroyed, that the VA is being gutted, that all these government programs are being gutted and destroyed. I want to talk about those things. And I want to talk about what the MAGA Republicans are doing to create this fascist state in the United States. So stop gamifying, this. So that's why I always say here on the MeidasTouch Network, to me, you always have to talk about the values and principles. And sometimes those just start with empathy, trying to be a good person, lifting people up, not punching people down, not attacking marginalized communities, being a helping hand to support people, right? Building community, bridging gaps. That to me is kind of equality. That's peak. And then we can start going, okay, well, now that I have these values, who are the people fighting for them and who are the people fighting against them, right? To me, that's why this is fight the oligarchy, not necessarily fight for or against a party. It's appropriately identifying the source of this problem is a fascist oligarchy that's trying to destroy and is destroying our country. So here's Bernie Sanders from the speech, and he's like, okay, idea one, instead of spending $1 trillion a year on the military, maybe we focus on things like low-income housing. We build homes, okay? Here, play this clip.
Here in LA, in Burlington, Vermont, and all across this country, we have a major housing crisis. Am I right? And it's not just homelessness. It's people paying 40, 50, 60% of their limited incomes in housing. Instead of spending $1 trillion a year on the military, let's build 5 million units of low-income and affordable housing.
Let's talk about education, right? As Donald Trump wants to abolish the Department of Education, as Donald Trump attacks universities, as Donald Trump attacks opportunities available to Americans, what are Bernie Sanders, what should we be fighting for? Here, Senator Sanders, in his Fight the Oligarchy speech from this weekend, talks about education's a human right. Here, play this clip.
Brothers and sisters, we live in a competitive global economy. And if we're going to effectively compete, we need the best educated workforce in the world. It is nothing less than insane and counterproductive that we have young people leaving higher education $50,000, $80,000 in debt. We need more doctors. You know what doctors are leaving medical school with? $500,000 in debt. Nurses are leaving $100,000 in debt. Education is a human right, from child care through college. We need sheet metal workers. We need carpenters. We need construction workers. We need apprenticeship programs. We need to make public colleges, universities, and trade schools tuition free. Donald Trump.
And that is how it's done. We stream the Senator Sanders Fight and AOC, Fight the Oligarchy speeches live. We then do lots of videos about them. And I just want to leave you all with this, like how we try to meet the moment at the MeidasTouch Network, how we use our platform now that the MeidasTouch Network gets more views than Fox News, twice as many podcast downloads as Joe Rogan. We're the fastest growing Substack on all of Substack. By the way, you can join the Substack at MeidasPlus.com, MeidasPlus.com. But thanks to this movement, we've been able to build together with your help a media network that can now bring attention to the speeches that corporate news would never cover. There was a recent article in Semaphore by a renowned writer named Max Tenney. He talked about how the MeidasTouch Network is covering the shadow hearings and how these shadow hearings exposing the MAGA crimes now have a place where people can see them. That's how we use the platform to try to meet the moment. And we have a great editorial team and research team. We've been breaking stories in state election races where we've got a number of MAGA Republican governors and MAGA Republican governor candidates basically saying, screw the people on audio, that we don't care if you lose your jobs. We broke a great story in Nevada, a great story in the Commonwealth of Virginia that have become the biggest stories in those areas. So what we're doing here is very tangible. We bring a plan, short-term, long-term, brick by brick, every single day, building this with you. And it is finally covering the things that we, like you, always said were never being covered, especially in the right way by corporate news. And now that our platform is bigger, we're the most viewed channel on all of YouTube across all categories. That is how we use our mic and our voice. And this is how we bring this community, the Meidas Mighty, and continue to grow. So a few points. MeidasPlus.com, as I mentioned, is the Substack. You can even subscribe for free. We'd love for you to become a paid subscriber, of course, since that helps grow the network. But try it. MeidasPlus.com. Sign up now. I think you'll really enjoy Ron Filipkowski's daily summaries and the other content we have there, MeidasPlus.com. Remember, Patreon.com/MeidasTouch. On this Thursday coming up, we're going to do our State of MeidasTouch, State of Resistance, State of Opposition Zoom meeting, where our patrons will get the secret link to attend. Patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Check that out. And then for the Meidas merch, I always get lots of requests about Meidas merch. Store.MeidasTouch.com. Check it out. The Maple Meidas gear for our Canadian Meidas fans. But also you can get that in the United States as well. But it's 100% made in Canada, manufactured in Canada. Store.MeidasTouch.com. Check that out. And we also got a bunch of other merch gear there as well. We covered a lot of topics today. Stay strong, Meidas Mighty. Stay strong, Maple Meidas. Stay strong, International Meidas. We'll have to go country by country and develop like the Maple Meidas. But for real, they want us to back down and tap out and give up. Hang in there. We're in this together. Brad, anything else you want to say?
I'm just going to toss it to Jordy.
Shout out to the Meidas Mighty. Can't get enough Meidas? Check out the Meidas Plus Substack for ad-free articles, reports, podcasts, daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, and more. Sign up for free now at MeidasPlus.com.